enterprise security architecture. What's the enterprise? It's your entire organization seen holistically. You're looking at goals and objectives both from a security perspective and your business needs. Long-term view of control, is that strategic or tactical? Strategic. Strategic, very good, very good. You want to be able to look outwards. If you're trying to manage the short-term goals of the organization in a centralized fashion or through your architecture, you're doing it wrong. It's too expensive, it's too unwieldy, it's too cumbersome. Those things should be done at a middle management level. They should be done at a project level. You want a unified vision. You want everybody on board when it comes to the common security controls. What are we talking about there? What kind of things would be common controls? What kind of things would we use across the enterprise? Antivirus? Firewalls? Maybe HIDs? Good. Password policy. Yeah, good, good. Why do we want a unified vision? Why? Did you find it? Why do we want everybody to agree on those things? Why do we want unanimous acclaim?
To have a standard. To have a standard.
To have it standard. What does standardizing do for us? One solution across the entire enterprise. What does that do for us?
Makes it easier to implement and maintain.
Yeah, it's a lot cheaper. All you need is one skill set among your administrators to do that, right? Absolutely. What's the downside to it? It's a lot less secure. A homogeneous environment takes one set of tools to crack, but you can administer it much better, right? So that's usually a fair trade-off. You can monitor it and maintain it at a higher level than if it was diverse. Good. You want to leverage what's already in your organization. If you don't have to go and repurchase everything, of course, that's much smarter, including the skill sets and knowledge base of your personnel. You might actually want to pick countermeasures and controls based on the brain power that you have. So you don't have to retrain everybody, even though there might be something that's technologically more sophisticated available. Again, you're going to make these trade-offs. You want a flexible approach later on. You don't want to be married to a given solution. You don't want to drive the organization into the ground just because you're stuck on using this old implementation. Can anybody think of a legacy technology that some environments insist on using, even though we should have driven a stake through their heart a while back? Matt?
No.
What is it? No? You don't have to name the client. That's okay. No.
You must be thinking of like Windows 98 and SCADA systems. Vista.
Vista. Oh man. Actually, I was thinking more along the lines of AS400s. In the manufacturing and retail realm, they're holding on to these things. They're doing like a retcon on these things where they keep just trying to maintain that hardware and just shoehorning software into it and trying to force functionality on it that was never designed for. I mean, we're talking about something barely out of vacuum tube stage, and they're still holding on to it. What are the intended benefits of implementing an architecture over the entire enterprise? You want to help senior management come to the decision of what models to use, what controls to put in place. You want to be able to do that standardization because it is cheaper and you can make better cost-benefit analysis. You want to be able to ensure that whatever security services you're providing now will be in your future build, that you have those goals in mind when you're picking your new technology as you go into refresh states. You want to be able to maintain what it is that was your goals, your policies and your standards. The architecture allows you to do that holistically across the entire environment. Describe strategies. Use industry standards and models like we talked about before. If somebody else has already been down that road, there's no reason for you to reinvent the wheel. It's not cost effective. Let somebody else have made that mistake for you. And documentation. Documentation and strategic alignment together in another bullet. My second favorite bullet. This one's too long, but I like this. This is my second favorite one.
It's not too long. It's just well documented.
Oh, if I had candy, you'd have some, Andy. Good. What else does it do for you? It allows you to see what happens when you change functionality in one domain. How does it impact the security of another domain? You can use certain controls across the entire environment, and you can spread risk over an entire project and see if that risk for that project is at the acceptable level compared to your organizational risk acceptance level. And you, again, want to use common security services for your basic services, for those simple controls. How do you do this? Oh, yeah, this is the one, isn't it? Sure. Yeah, it's the interviews with the stakeholders slide. I knew I had a slide. All right, so how do you define your enterprise architecture? You create a catalog of inputs, different things that are going to feed and drive your decision-making process. Know where the organization is going. What are some things that should define the organization's strategic direction? What should they include?
A strategic plan.
Yes. You're smirking. Should is the key word there, right? Good. How about the mission statement? Has anyone taken part in crafting a mission statement for their organization? I have. That's a fun process. You know what they all end up saying?
We're going to do stuff.
We're going to be the best. Oh, we're gonna rock, man. We're going to be better than everybody else. Is that real strategic direction? A little fuzzy, I think. A little fuzzy. Document your drivers. What's a driver? What's a business driver? What?
Drives the truck.
Yes. Yes. The truck driver is a business driver. Good. Good. Cost of goods sold. Cost of getting to market. R&D. Your vendors and their flexibility. Regulatory restrictions. These are all business drivers. Knowing delivery strategies. What are we talking about there? What do we, again, not delivery drivers, but what's a delivery strategy? Why does that impact what our, why does that go into our input catalog? What does that mean? It talks about the IT environment that we're using. It talks about the current systems. Are we going to be a web environment? Are we going to be a cloud environment? Are we going to be are we doing servers and thin clients? What is our strategy and how are we going to build out from here? Current positions, again, what is the current configuration? What's the current architecture? Policies and standards. If we have those policies and standards in place and there's some consistency, we know what kind of options we can put into place, what kind of controls we can put into place to make sure that we are adhering to those. We want to find those common users and the sensitive or critical assets and the relationships, because those are the things that are the critical path. PMP, Gail, what's critical path in a project?
The path that cannot have any slack or float on it.
Good.
That otherwise it will impact the length of the project.
Absolutely. It's the shortest path from initiation of the project to deliverable, right? Yeah. It's the one that you can't modify. That's your line of business. That is the very nature of what you do. This is going to show up again in what other module? What do we have to know the critical path for? What do we have to know the critical needs for? Say again?
Project?
Projects, yeah. The SDLC, we use that. But also disaster recovery and continuity of operations, right? Those are the things that you're going to have to recover and ensure and maintain. And interviews. You want to be able to find out what the users and business owners believe are the critical functions. You want that target model. You want to see where it is you want to be, including the wetware, the hardware and software, and the security as it relates to all of these things in the context of your environment. That includes security of your customers' data. That includes security of your vendor data. If you can add granularity, great. You can drill down on a component or physical level and model those things. What's the risk of doing this? What's the downside of doing this? I think we mentioned it early on in this same module.
I'm just thinking the target, if you're looking 3 or 5 out, it could change pretty easily in that time frame.
Absolutely. You're going to spend a lot of time chasing your tail on this thing. If you're getting down to the placement of the actual units themselves, it's going to be expensive trying to ensure that and trying to maintain that model. It might not be cost effective to do so. You might not be getting a lot of bang for your buck. Gap analysis. Comparing where we are to where we're going. That's the gap. That's the gap. What's the difference between here and there, and how are we going to get there? Common security services on your enterprise architecture include boundary controls, such as what? What's in your boundary controls? Firewalls. Good, good. Bastion hosts, right? Access control services, such as? Might be implemented by the OS, might be implemented by?
Kerberos.
Kerberos, good, good. Integrity services come from?
Backup.
Good, backup. Do we have consistent backup, and can we readily revert to a last known good? Also, we just got done talking about another form of integrity. Crypto, yeah. Yeah, if you implement certain hash functions, you can get integrity out of them, right? Good. Crypto, across the organization, how's it going to be used? Audit and monitoring. You might want to use the same methodology for every domain in the organization. Why don't you want to use different forms of audit? You're getting different reports. You're not comparing apples to apples anymore, right? Yeah, you want to know how everything matches up to each other, if nothing else. And security zones of control. You should look at different business functionalities and be able to define for those domains what the acceptable risk is for those different operations. Is it still in accordance with what the overall enterprise acceptable risk is, but defined for that piece? Might there be more acceptable risk for the marketing department than there is for HR? Yeah, what does HR have that is a lot more liability than what marketing has?
Personnel data.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Good. Good.